look at it, not expecting for us to be best of friends. But, maybe we weren't best of friends during World War II, but we had a mutual interest in defeating at that time the Nazis and Japan. And now as we look forward, we have to look at ways to defeat or at least counter before things do potentially get out of control.
Okay, there are some items on the table, and a follow-up question to that is, would Russia actually see this as a benefit? How do they see this as a benefit to them, in your opinion?
Sure. And there's a lot of ways. The U.S. and Russia have a growing overlapping interest to ensure that the world order is not disrupted by an increasingly dominant China. And let me give you some examples. Non-proliferation efforts. This is huge. So this is one of those issues where the U.S. and Russia both have an interest for their countries in countering potential loose nukes. The U.S. does a very good job of securing our weapons, and we want to make sure that the rest of the world does too. So countering those is important. Countering the proliferation of chemical and biological weapons is important, not just to the U.S., not just to Russia, but to the entire world. And the reality is many of the real subject matter experts, when you talk about biological weapons, guys like Ken Alibek, who in many would believe is the preeminent biological warfare expert in the world, came out of the former Soviet Union.
So
those kind of guys that work for Ken Alibek at one time, unfortunately, he's here in the United States, but others that are not here in the United States, we need to make sure that that information is controlled as well, and that it's not out of control out there and being proliferated. We have an opportunity here of enhancing regional stability in the Middle East, in Asia. These are important not just to the United States, but to Russia as well. Countering terrorism and countering narcotics are important to both of our countries as well. And in fact, we work very closely on many of these issues already. So it's just a matter of taking advantage of those areas that we're already aligned in to improve our relationship as we move forward on this issue.
How do you see this partnership with Russia? How do you see that working and sit at the table with them?
Well, I think first what we need to look at is what does Russia bring to a potential coalition? What does the United States bring to a coalition? And Russia is resource-rich, exceptionally large, mostly Christian, well-educated, military and dramatically experienced nation that has a lot of leadership capability. Sound familiar? Russia is almost twice the size of the United States, with the largest landmass of any country in the world. And they boast the 10th largest population in the world. So these are things to consider. So why does it make sense? Well, the U.S. is currently the world's only superpower, and to recognize Russia and to give them that extra respect, I think brings them back to where we need to, properly, the proper respect. And of course, we do respect the Russians. President Putin's approval rating is tied to the economy, and Russia's economy is slowing right now. It's expected to slow to about 2% annual growth in the near future here. So that's something to consider. Russia had difficulty attracting foreign direct investment in the past several years. That's another issue that we can help with. And they have a high unemployment rate for their young men. So again, these are things that we can work with the Russians on as we move forward.
The question is obvious, I think, just based on the news media. Before we go on to your next points here, but President Putin is seen differently by the American public than what you describe. It's just a typical difference, I think, that exists. But isn't there an element of uncertainty when dealing with President Putin?
Well, there's a degree of uncertainty, I think, when you're dealing with any country, but there are unknowns and potential challenges to building a coalition. How Russia will respond to an offer to form a coalition is certainly unknown. but I think it's always worth approaching. And quite frankly, any kind of conversation is worth approaching. Secondly, how human rights issues are being dealt with, how they would be dealt with closer cooperation. The relationship between the U.S. and Russia does seem to have gotten a little tense here, but in many ways is going very well. I mean, who would have thought 25 or 35 years ago that we would have an Olympics in the former Soviet Union, and you would have President Putin watching the U.S. beat the Russians in hockey yesterday. With loose nukes and chemical weapons, I think a weaker Russia is a more dangerous Russia, and that's something I think we need to keep in mind as we move forward. And lastly, the Russian Duma is yet to ratify the 1990 Bering Sea Maritime Boundary Agreement with the United States. So all of these issues put us in a position where we have some room to negotiate and to work with the Russians, and hopefully it allows us to expand our relationships, not just with the Russians, but also with the Chinese and others in the region.
Are there other players, and I going just a little bit outside Russia now, given the former Soviet Union? Are there other partners potentially there? And I know these are questions that are developing as I listen to this play out, because it's not just Russia and China and us, but there are others in the region.
Well, absolutely, and there's a lot at stake. As you look at with Japan, Russia, Japan has an incredible navy, by the way, and a strong economy. In the Philippines, with the many islands and the issues there, and we're obviously very closely tied with the Philippines, with the Filipino people. But also when you go up into the Black Sea, and you look at countries like Georgia, there's certainly potential there, and these are all countries that we relate with on a regular basis and have good cooperation with.
Well, there certainly is, to put it lightly, Captain Parker, a very complex relationship or complex issue. Our current Navy, and of course when dealing with Asia, especially you've got China, its growing Navy, you've got the United States, the size of our Navy. What does that role, what do those roles look like? How do we interact with Asia, not Asia, but with China? And are we able to at least show presence effectively?
We have a very good working relationship with all of the countries in that region, to include China. Very close ties and continuous conversations and interaction. If you look at the Rim of the Pacific exercise, it's held the largest maritime exercise in the world. It will include the Chinese this year, and included the Russians in the last exercise. That was a major part of that, and those kinds of relationships matter a lot. We are focused on, as you know, through the Defense Strategic Guidance, we're focused on our pivot, our presence in the Pacific. It matters, and a lot of it matters because if you look at the world trade, so much of the world's trade goes by sea, and that matters significantly. Almost 90% by volume of the world's trade goes by sea, and a vast majority of that goes through several of the major ports which are over there in the Pacific. So it's not just a matter of puffing up our chests, but it's also a matter of the global economy and the global commons, which is why the Navy is pushing forward.
Well, certainly we'll continue to follow this. It will be years. This obviously won't be an overnight resolution, or I don't know, evolution. Maybe that's the word to use in that part of the world. Captain Parker, always a pleasure. I've got to thank you, if nothing else publicly, for the chance to spend this afternoon with you and get caught up and meet some of the folks at CFR, at the Council on Foreign Relations, and you have a lot of great experts over in that building, over in that council. And I certainly hope we'll get some of them on the show.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much, and it was great talking to you this evening.
866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874 on Twitter at David Webb Show. And your calls, your tweets, and more. And coming up, a little more information on yet another good effort being put forth by President George W. Bush. I'll explain that.
This is the David Webb Show. David Webb. A gathering place for great Americans.
Obamacare is part of the no jobs problem. Why? Because we're making it more expensive for employers to add new employees.
This is Sirius XM Patriot 125. Attention business owners and individuals with tax problems. Listen carefully. If you owe the IRS a small amount of money, you do not have to hire an attorney for help. You can call the IRS yourself and resolve your problem. But if you have a complex tax matter where you owe a large amount of taxes for personal or business, or have several years of unfiled tax returns and received notices or even visits from the IRS, you need to hire the absolute best. Call Strategic Tax Lawyers at 877-665-9800. Strategic Tax Lawyers is an experienced nationwide tax law firm led by a former IRS tax attorney. Experience is key when dealing with the IRS. Don't get ripped off by tax relief companies that promise the world and deliver nothing. Read their 5-star reviews at mytaxattorney.com. That's mytaxattorney.com, or call 877-665-9800 and mention the new IRS Fresh Start program. That's 877-665-9800. This message has been brought to you by Attorney Jeffrey Jenkins.
Are you concerned about blood pressure, cholesterol, or other cardiovascular issues? Are you taking an omega-3 supplement but are not seeing the results you've been promised? Dr. Steven Sinatra's famous Little Red Pill is the only fish oil alternative enhanced with resveratrol, providing you with sustained energy and the amazing health results you've been looking for. Now you can balance triglycerides and cholesterol, improve circulation, get rid of blood pressure problems, and many other signs of aging with Omega Q Plus with resveratrol. Call today to find out how to get a free bonus bottle of Omega Q Plus with resveratrol as part of our radio special. Dr. Steven Sinatra is America's #1 integrative cardiologist and formulated this alternative to fish oil with high levels of omega-3, DHA, and EPA from a triple purified calamarine source with CoQ10, resveratrol, and 4 other ingredients for complete cardiovascular protection. This combination nearly doubles the power of fish oil for your heart and brain. Call now to get your free bonus bottle at 1-800-200-4203 and ask for Omega Q Plus with resveratrol. That's 1-800-200-4203. Again, 1-800-200-4203.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Introducing Magic Jack. Get unlimited local and long-distance calling to the U.S. and Canada for only $29.95 a year. That's less than $3 a month. Millions of people use Magic Jack today and enjoy crystal clear quality. Magic Jack won the 2013 Frost & Sullivan North America Consumer Choice Award based on quality, value, cost, and ease of use.
Get Magic Jack at MagicJack.com, Walmart, Radio Shack, Best Buy, and Fry's. Service requires purchase of the Magic Jack device. Compliance with terms of service and restrictions on excessive use.
Download the free Magic Jack app in the App Store on iTunes and Google Play today.
This is Sirius XM Patriot. Sirius XM Patriot 125. Sirius XM Patriot. The heartbeat of conservatism. The United States Constitution is the legal DNA for our country. The David Webb Show.
Tomorrow, and you can watch this online at bushcenter.org/live, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Former President George W. Bush will host a Veterans Summit in Texas focused on ways to provide assistance to separating service members and their families. It's a rare public appearance for our former Commander-in-Chief. There will also be remarks from Dr. Jill Biden, the wife of Vice President Joe Biden, retired Marine General Peter Pace, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and a host of veterans advocates, community organizers, and business leaders will join them for the day-long discussion. President Bush is expected to talk about military transition issues and a call for a united effort of public and private agencies to provide more assistance to veterans looking to reintegrate into civilian communities. That is a mirror effort of the White House's Joining Forces campaign that was launched 3 years ago by Jill Biden and Michelle Obama to highlight the struggles and the sacrifices of military families. A lot of private groups out there working on these issues. But it's good to see former President Bush step out on something that he clearly demonstrated in his time in office, before office even, and after, and that is that he cares about our military and our veterans, and they will release the results of a new study, Understanding of the Post-9/11 Veterans Landscape and Ways to Provide Better Resources to them. Again, that's live online tomorrow, Wednesday, at bushcenter.org/live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
Exit right,
So,
then turn left.
good information for you out there. We'll make sure we get it out on Twitter and on Facebook. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. In St. Louis, David, you're on the David Webb Show.
Hey, Dave. Great show. Appreciate you having me on. The question I have is, I wish I would have had the chance to ask your guest, Captain Parker, about his thoughts from his perspective in the CFR about a lot of these heads that have been rolling in the Navy, in the nuclear program or even the Navy. A lot of officers, admirals, and others have been suspended and forced to retire for pending outcome.
Well, that I can give you the first part of that. It would have been a tough answer for him to get into. He's an active duty naval officer.
Oh.
So, and you know that line that they have to walk very carefully. Certainly as someone who's achieved not only his rank, but is on loan to the Council on Foreign Relations. But, we should be concerned about the loss of the officer corps, frankly, the loss of the NCO structure in our military all across the board.
Yeah, I agree. I just see it. It just seems kind of coincidental that there's been so many, leaders in the nuclear program that have been suspended or forced to retire lately. I don't know. And maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but it's just, when you're dealing with President Obama and some of these issues going around the world, you just got to think twice about some of their actions.
Well, and here's some other perspectives. And again, I spent the afternoon with Captain Parker. We had a chance to talk, meet with many of the experts over there. Not really formal meetings, but introductions. It's the beginning of a relationship with folks who have a variety of expertise. And we'll have access to them on this show. That people make decisions, military officers included. They have families typically. They make decisions on where they can use their expertise. So some will leave because there's opportunity in the private sector. And when the economy does swing back and get better, the other will likely become a challenge, because the military will then be competing with a better economy. In a tough economy, it's sometimes easier to provide surety, to provide a place to work and live.
In 3/4 of a mile, exit right, then turn left.
I got you. Are you personally concerned or professionally concerned about some of them?
Always, but from a broader point, because we can debate back and forth, David, the why they're leaving and surmise and summarize and otherwise. But look at the realistic effects. For whatever reason, that these officers and the NCOs and the Master Chief Petty Officers, those
exit
ranks,
right,
those non-coms and the officers, for whatever reason they leave, they're not easily replaced. You don't replace 12 to 20 years of experience overnight. A petty officer doesn't become a Master Chief Petty Officer overnight. A private doesn't become a Master Sergeant or a Tech Sergeant in the Air Force. These positions and that expertise and that experience is necessary to keep the military going. But the multiple deployments,
in 1/2 mile, turn left,
with the Navy,
turn left.
we talked about earlier today, certainly with the Navy under stress, that is going to affect what people decide to do. It may be a case of, in an example given to me earlier by Captain Parker, that at one time they were at sea for 9 months and had 11 days off because of multiple reasons, and going from deployment to deployment or reassignment.
Wow.
And that takes its toll.
1044, I-90.
Yeah. No.
Appreciate
your thoughts and
9 Adam.
These guys
All
great perspective to
Turn
global,
left, then turn
global
left.
problems.
Yeah, I know it can get heady at times. You know, these Tuesday nights tend to be a little bit more heady than the others because, David, as you know, when you get into these issues, when you get into global interactions, and you get into discussions of who
you were going to be doing some other
is this
Are you going to Rapid tomorrow?
as good a partner, or there's no certain. There's a lot of
I have a person to doctor by 9:30.
guesses at times and analysis, but there is I don't say there's 100% certainty.
Turn left, then turn left.
I'll be leaving around
Having some of the families who lost some family members.
If I'm there, I'll need to ride a rapid ship, but if I'm not, don't worry about it. I'll go in later in the day.
Smith and others, they're very careful to come out and talk. And as this plays out,
I need to run you out there. We'll have to leave a little earlier.
They've stayed quiet. They waited for this resolution or this process to play out for their own reasons. I can't say I'm sure, but there may be a time when they speak
Turn left, then
more
turn
openly
left.
about it.
Yeah. I got you. Hey, I'm going to let you go here. I got to run because I'm hitting traffic, but great show, and I'll continue listening tonight.
All right, be careful out there in traffic. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874 on Twitter at David Webb Show. So we'll get to the Twitter report next.
I wasn't ready for that one. I mean, that was... Oh, okay. All right. So at least we know, Dave, that you want to do the Twitter report. That much.
He jumped the gun.
He's just like the Twitter report. And then puts his finger up in the air. Dave, we're doing the Twitter report.
Okay. For the first tweet, James writes, Texas under attack by Washington, Muslims, and liberals, and no Alamo to run to.
Alamo didn't work out so well. I'd like a different resolution this time. I mean, in the end, it did. Technically, the Alamo worked out well in the end. Just not for the people there at the moment.
It says 311, so it didn't work out.
In 3/4 of a mile, turn left.
To Santa Ana and others that we're not going to be beaten. So it was a turning point, and it was a turning point. Just for the moment, it was a tough turning point.
Got it.
All right, so go to the next one.
My next tweet comes from Deborah. She says, what is our Homeland Security doing about it? Oh yeah, I forgot the Muslim Brotherhood is our homeland. She's being sarcastic, obviously.
Yeah, and look, we now know, and she's talking about the report released by Clarion, the Clarion Project. Well, here's something, the first thing that bothers me about this, that they say the FBI documents show the government's concern about its links to terrorism when they're talking about the Muslims of the Americas. At the same time that we have a DOJ publicly going along with the administration.
This removal of the terminology from our politics, dealing with people who are
enemies of America. They're enemies of, anybody who doesn't agree with them. You've got the Muslims of the Americas, MOA, spell it MOA. They believe that the holiest Islamic site in the United States
In
is
1/2 mile, turn left.
Israel-built commune in South Carolina. Other MOA entities, the International Quranic Open University, United Muslim Christian Front, Islamic Post, Muslim Veterans of America, and American Muslim Medical Relief Team.
Dave, I wonder if the NSA helped find out about the Texas compound. And
You don't need the NSA, you just need a car to drive by and try and enter. You got Islamberg up in New York. The New York State Police,
Turn
in report
left.
after report, have been shown that they just sit outside the compound's entrance or somewhere along the road.
I took a little trip up there, Dave.
You have driven by it? I haven't been by there in 4 years.
I took a little trip up there. I found a place to park my car and did a little digging in the woods. And staked out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and just so happened to hear some automatic gunfire. Curious to wonder if those weapons are going to be registered under the new laws here for AR-15.
If the state police don't exercise the law in New York and go in there, they have a right. We have laws against certain types of training and automatic weapons. They're not allowed.
Turn left, then turn left.
Right, and they've been very open about that.
To which they have.
There's a big difference between what's lawfully allowed for any citizen and converting to full auto. All right, go ahead, Ray.
All right. Randy Mack says, concern that the U.S. has no direction. Leadership requires competency. Why isn't Romney POTUS?
Well, he isn't. Here we are. And, if you watch Huckabee, you'll get a pretty good summary of my thoughts over the course of 3 segments with Mike Huckabee, Congressman Marsha Blackburn, Crystal Wright, who writes the blog GOP Black Chick, and Minister, whose name just escapes me, Sammy.
Boy, Robert, Ocean, William, Nora, middle name Elaine,
what the GOP
Edward, Lincoln, Adam, Ida, Nora, Edward.
Whoever wants to be president in the GOP, Ray,
1990.
Stop running for the presidency. We've got to win the House. We've got the House. We've got to win more seats in the House. We've got to take the Senate, focus on that, and govern from the Congress.
Yeah, we're more powerful governing from the Congress because face the facts, folks. Here, Ted Cruz is not going to be running for president this year. Don't care what anybody says.
Oh yeah, nobody's running for president this year.
It might. Yeah, we might as well just put out the most competent person who could make the most, arguable debates and the smartest man in the room type of is what we should do this year is the GOP. Whoever sounds the most articulate and can somehow go up against Hillary Clinton, and as we'll get to later, Ted Nugent's coming stage. They all leave there. He said they all leave there. What's at the door, and even Hillary too.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, our farm team isn't ready, and we don't
have a farm team.
It's hard to say that we don't have a farm team, Dave, because we've seen people come out of nowhere. Let's put it that way. We've seen candidates come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and usually they suck.
But
Barack Obama came out of nowhere.
Which is exactly why I say that Ted Cruz shouldn't run this year, because we've seen what a first-term senator can do to a campaign.
If we commit the same political sins as others, how do we expect competent leadership?
Do I think that in 2020 there's a chance that Ted Cruz could run for president of the United States? I don't see why not.
You know where I run into the issue, and I'm not saying there can't be a good senator running for the office of congressman. Legislators are different than executives.
Correct.
It's a different skill set in being a legislator. Not that you can't possibly do the job, but there's a completely different skill set when it comes to someone who legislates versus someone who makes decisions as an executive, such as a governor. All right. Do we have another break? Are we good?
No,
to the top? Okay.
You're good to the top.
All right, so we can keep going here. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Nancy, Alabama, you're on the David Webb Show.
Hey, David. I just wanted to compliment you on your appearance on Hannity last night. You were a gladiator, man. I mean, you got that old boy in your teeth. I thought you were a pit bull. You just got him in your teeth and shook him a few times, and it was all over.
I'm just listening to you say with that accent, and I love it. I gotta tell you, Nancy, I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate it. Frankly, you just sounded great.
Hot alert.
That's, there's nothing better than a Southern girl at times with that accent. So now I'm starting with you.
Yeah, I hope your wife heard it because it was kind of hot.
Well, I'm single, so my wife better not have heard it, or I got problems.
Well, we got that established now, haven't we?
Oh. You know, Hannity started this, and it's never going to end now with the WebEx.
How far out?
Big get even with that. I'm going to start something.
You need to do more of that.
We're going to have to give him $5
Do more
now.
of that man on the street interview thing, because it was good.
Well, where they are, and by the way, just to take this on for a moment, Nancy, there comes a point when you really do have to just go on offense. And as I've said, and as I wrote on Breitbart, and I said there, and I'm making it clear for everyone, I don't care where the bigotry comes from or where the stupidity comes from. It's time to take it on. If it comes from the right, the left, or somewhere else, it doesn't matter. It's time to get that out of our society, or at least viciously attack it where it exists. You know,
media is the wall we have to climb over.
Well, but they're some of our own people. Look, I like Ted Nugent. I think he's a decent guy in a lot of respects. But then he goes off on this mongrel Obama, tirade at the SHOT Show. And I turn around and I go, come on, Ted, you're not helping here.
If it helps, I'll be going over on Thursday and Friday also, but I don't have to be over there till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
To live up to a set of standards, we have to live up to it as well.
Looks like mine's going to have to go to Chevy too, so I'm just going to drive it in and bring the other one back.
Yeah, but you know what? If I say that about him, then I've got to say that Reverend Barber's just our crazy.
Sounds like you got it covered.
Or Ralvin Holmes is our crazy. Yeah, and I get what you're saying, but you know what? We have to be better.
You're right.
We absolutely have to be better. And by the way, as soon as it warms up down there above 32 degrees, as Ward told me the other night, I'll come down to the Gulf Shores. So look out, Gulf Shores. I'm headed south in March. I'll find my way over there somehow.
Come on down.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
Have a good night.
866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874 on Twitter at David Webb Show. I'm not sure where Felipe is going with this one. He says Ventura, Stern 2016. I'm guessing on Twitter, that's Felipe on Twitter at David Webb Show, that he's talking about Jesse Ventura. Who's Stern? Ray. You know who Stern is? Am I missing somebody there?
David Stern, the former NBA commissioner?
Yeah, and Howard's, maybe Howard Stern for president. But Ventura, no. Jesse Ventura, no.
Please. Please help.
I can't even take Jesse.
I'd rather be waterboarded than have Jesse Ventura as president.
It's about a mile from Edward, a half mile.
Different Jesse's usually within the same hour.
About half a mile from this one is just south of that. Southeast River Bridge.
That time, but I don't know. 866-94-PATRIOT, 957-2874 on Twitter at David Webb Show. Again, tomorrow, for all you veterans, President George Bush's Veterans Summit at bushcenter.org/live. And let's keep an eye on Kiev tonight as well, guys, because there we have another situation that is just breaking down around the world as people fight. Some are fighting against suppression.
1/2 mile, keep right, then take ramp right.
Down in Venezuela. Look at how How does Venezuela turn out? Has anybody heard from Sean Penn? This was a big move in Venezuela. Nationalize everything. Take it over. Out of communism comes, well, what do you expect? Poverty, inequality, just downright destruction of the society.
I am heading down to Booking with 3 trains.
Nowhere to be heard from. Greg, Minneapolis, you're on the David Webb Show.
Keep right, then take ramp right.
Yes, sir. How's it going this evening?
Doing all right, Greg.
Regarding issues that you hear about all the time regarding gun control and stuff, there's an act called the Dick Act of 1902. And it states that there will be no future laws that will ban certain guns, that one individual can have as many and any kind of gun as they want. And no one's ever mentioned that before. And I was wondering if you thought that was still relevant now.
I'm looking at it here. Let's see, this is the DIC Act. I see it. Also known as the Efficiency of Militia Bill, H.R. 11654, June 28, 1902. You know what? I'll have to read it and see what it is first.
Rapid 834-1044.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, sir.
All right. Thank you. 86695-PATRIOT. Texas, Omar, you're on the David Webb Show.
1044, Fairlawn, Highway 79.
Doing all right, Omar.
Victor,
Yeah, this is I'm a first-time listener. I'm a truck driver. I was going to ask you, let's got that base in Syria. Why haven't we opened up a base in Israel? I'm just curious. I think that's a good question, don't you?
Well, I mean, we have a working relationship with them. We don't have a base there for reasons that were determined a long time ago, and I don't think it would change a thing if we already have an open relationship. So if we needed to work with Israel as partners, we would have access to those ports. Also, frankly, there's a lot of Mediterranean there, but not as much as you think. There are other areas where the draft is better and where we're able to establish bases.
Yeah, well, I think we should open up a base there, and like Russia has a base in Syria, we can, keep drones there, Air Force, whatever.
I got news for you. I haven't been to the Israeli facilities and literally flown a simulator and seen their drone operations. They can help us out without even using ours, let's put it that way. And by the way, look, we also have to realize why Russia has a different need for TARDIS. TARDIS is their only warm water port. We have ports Mediterranean is gotta be the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The busiest sea lanes area. Everybody's in that. It's like this messy pond with everybody kicking their feet up and dirt just filling the water. Everybody's there, but the Russians need TARDIS, which is why they're supporting Assad. They don't give a crap. In reality, I don't think, I can't speak for them, but I don't see any reason why they would even care whether it was Bashar Assad or some other person in power. Eventually Assad will die. There will be somebody else. But since the Cold War, they've had TARDIS. It's their warm water base. It's the base they need.
I don't think we'd be getting any threats, like from Iran and Lebanon, whatever, if we had a little base there.
Now we'd still get the threats because you're operating from the principle that they would actually see and respect that show of force. They don't even respect the overwhelming show of force. And when you look at what they said even recently, and the Iranian minister just today, that they don't have to stop their weapons development, they don't have to stop their nuclear program. Let's face it, you could park the entire U.S. Navy there, and they're still going to think from that perspective. All right, Omar, got to go to break here, but thanks for the call. 866-95-PATRIOT. The guys from Ranger Up are here. They're in studio. Terry Patton's on the phone, so I guess we can forgive him for that. But Terry's here. Oh my, are you serious? You didn't come running into the studio. You did not come running into this. I've heard. I have heard. Terry Patton showed here. All right, there we have it. Now we got a party. We'll get back to the Outlands. Terry Patton's in the studio. Nick Calvasano and John Wall. Ranger Up.
David Webb Show. Calling all makeup lovers. Bare Minerals Foundation just won its 9th Glammy Award for Best Prestige Foundation. And to celebrate, we're offering risk-free trials to all women nationwide. That's right, every woman who calls right now can get a full-size risk-free trial of our #1 selling foundation. Plus, a free 5-piece makeup set. For yours, call 1-800-953-6233. This is an exclusive, radio-only offer you don't want to miss. Bare Minerals Foundation gives you flawlessly beautiful coverage with a no-makeup feel, and it's clinically proven to promote clearer, healthier-looking skin for all skin types. No wonder it's won 9 Glammys in a row, and now you can try it for yourself. Call now to find out how you can participate in our nationwide risk-free trial and join the millions who've already tried Bare Minerals Foundation and fallen in love with their skin again. Plus, we'll send you a free 5-piece makeup set, our gift to you. Hurry, don't miss this exclusive radio-only offer. 1-800-953-6233. 1-800-953-6233.
From the North Carolina Senate race to the Texas governorship, stay here for the latest on the 2014 midterms. Sirius XM page reading 125.
Turn right.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm Chris Barnes. At least 100 Republican members of Congress are hoping to fight President Obama's go-it-alone approach to his agenda, and it could lead to a civil lawsuit against him.
He's a king. He's not a president.
President Obama has infamously declared that he has a pen and a phone and will do what he can without the approval of Congress, and he already has with modifications to the Obamacare law and immigration law.
In 1/2 mile,
now,
turn
Republican
right.
Congressman Tom Rice of South Carolina has authored what's called the STOP resolution for Stop This Overreaching President, and Rice tells Fox News.
He may have a pen and a telephone, but we have the Constitution. We cannot stand by and watch the president trample on the Constitution.
If passed, the resolution would authorize a civil lawsuit against Obama, and while some legal experts say such efforts to sue a sitting president have been rejected by judges before, this case may be different, as this president has already taken actions that effectively rewrite laws that Congress has already passed. This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
Police called and broke the bad news to Charles. His personal and financial information was found on an identity thief's computer disk. Nervous, confused, Charles called LifeLock, the industry leader in identity theft protection. LifeLock went into action uncovering the multiple fraudulent credit applications the identity thief was trying to open in Charles' name. LifeLock shut him down and helped Charles restore his good name and credit. He found out the hard way that identity theft is a global crime, a crime that is so complex you just can't fight it alone. And that's why I protect myself and my family with LifeLock Ultimate. Don't wait for the call from the police before you take action. Do what I did. Arm yourself with LifeLock Ultimate. Visit LifeLock.com/Beck for details and my special 10% discount. Or just use the promo code Beck and get the special 10% discount when you call 1-800-440-4936. 1-800-440-4936. 1-800-440-4936. Network doesn't cover all transactions and scope may vary.
The U.S. appealing to Ukraine's president to end a violent clash between riot police and thousands of anti-government protesters. The violence claiming at least 18 lives today, leaving hundreds injured. The White House saying Vice President Joe Biden called President Viktor Yanukovych to urge him to exercise restraint. Tensions began back in November after that.